Okay, so welcome to this Pathways to University webinar. My name is Sarah. I'm a future student advisor here at the University of Adelaide. So I'm basically going to be talking to you about all of the different pathways and entry options that are available to potential students of the university. And there are lots of varying options depending on your situation. I'll also be talking about the application process and something that's very important when you're looking at university study, the entry requirements and things like prerequisites that you might need to keep a lookout for when you're researching your study options. Part of our webinar tonight will also be a Q&A section with a current student. So he's going to be sharing his experiences as a student of the University of Adelaide, how he balances and manages study with other commitments like work, and you will have the opportunity to ask questions to both him and myself throughout the webinar. So you'll see at the top of your screen that there is a little Q&A link or button. At any time, please feel free to type your question into that. We'll see how we go as to whether we answer them throughout the webinar or wait until the very end. But we're certainly happy to answer any questions that you do have about studying with us. So let's get started. So there are many different scenarios and situations when it comes to people that are looking to study at university, and the different entry pathways will depend on those situations. So you may have no formal qualifications at all and you're looking to get started on that. You may have completed Year 12, but perhaps your ATAR wasn't as competitive as you would have liked it to be, or you didn't actually achieve a tertiary entrance score or rank, and that's okay. You might have done some prior VET or TAFE study, and this is a common pathway that people do use to enter university. Or you may have completed tertiary study at another institution as well. So we're going to talk through all of these options briefly, and you'll be able to see which one may be more relevant for you. The first thing that you want to do is find out about the entry requirements for the degrees that you're looking at studying. This is really important because it's really going to determine perhaps what pathway you do take. The best way to do that is to search Degree Finder on the university's website. So you can just see the link there, or you can Google it. And this has the most up-to-date information about prerequisites. So you can see here for this degree that we're looking at, and it's for the Bachelor of Computer Sciences, it does say that you need to have done, say, Stage 2 or Year 12 maths methods. So regardless of which pathway you do choose to enter university, that is still going to be a requirement. If you haven't done that, then it might be the case where you'll be talking with someone about potential bridging courses and ways that you can make up prerequisite subjects. So that's a really important thing to note. You'll also see as well in Degree Finder that it will say whether there are any alternative entry pathways. So looking at this particular degree, you can enter as a higher education applicant or a tertiary transfer if you've done some study elsewhere. You can enter as a VET applicant, and you can see there that it says if you have completed a certificate 4 or higher, you can apply on the basis of that. Some degrees will require a diploma level, and some degrees won't allow TAFE transfers. So it's very few, but it's really important to make sure that you do check Degree Finder to make sure that the pathway you're wanting to use is applicable to your chosen degree. Special entry is something called the Special Tertiary Admissions Test, or the STAT, so we'll look at that as well. So you can see for this particular degree, and it's quite common for many of our degrees, you do have lots of various pathways available. Before we start looking at those in greater detail, I thought it was worth just mentioning SATAC because I'll be referencing them throughout this webinar. So they are the South Australian Tertiary Admission Centre. Applications to all South Australian and Northern Territory universities go through SATAC. They do not go directly to the individual universities. As part of your application, you can submit up to 6 preferences across the various universities, but they all do go via this one central point. So applications for 2018 study are actually now open, so you can log on to the SATAC website, create an account and put forth an application. It's worth pointing out that SATAC does have an early closing date of Friday the 29th of September, which is coming up shortly. If you are looking to study next year, I definitely recommend that you get an application in by this date, or you will have to pay a late fee. It's about $130. So it's better in your pocket than in SATAC's. Would definitely recommend getting that application in. You can still change around your preferences after that date, so it's certainly not locked in. So you can have a chance to have a chat to the universities and make sure that you're happy with the order of those preferences, or that you've got all the information that you need before making those decisions. But definitely worth putting that application in soon. Okay, so we'll talk through the different options that are available. So you can see that there are a few up there. So we'll look through high school results, STAT, TAFE or VET, tertiary transfer, and then other pathways that may be applicable to you. So the first one is high school results. This is one that people don't often think about, but if you did get a tertiary entrance score or rank when you completed high school, you can use that until you've done more than 2 years of university level study. So even if you finished Year 12 quite some time ago, you can still use that score. If you can't remember what your score was, you can contact the SACE board, and they are more than happy to provide that information to you once you've been identified over the phone, and then you'll be able to know whether or not you gained a tertiary entrance score and what that was. And then you can either, depending on the entrance score for your degree, go ahead via that pathway, or investigate other options if that one's not going to be an option for you. So definitely worth just noting that that is possible. One of the most common pathways that people take into university, particularly if they didn't get a tertiary entrance rank at school and they have no prior qualifications, is something called the Special Tertiary Admissions Test. So it's more commonly known as the STAT. You may have heard of it. So we require the multiple choice version of this test only. You'll note that if you do some online searching that there's a multiple choice version and a written English version. The written English version is a requirement for some other states in Australia, but not for us here at the University of Adelaide. So you would just be looking at the multiple choice test. It's 70 questions, half are verbal reasoning, half are quantitative. We'll actually look at some sample questions in a moment. And it doesn't test subject-specific knowledge as such. It's not going to test how much you know about maths or history. It assesses how you can look at information that's presented to you, analyse it, and draw conclusions upon it. So I guess it's looking more at the skills that you need to be successful in university study rather than content knowledge as such. So you need to be 18 years or over by the 1st of February in the year that you do want to enter university. That's one of the main conditions for the STAT. But it is administered through SATAC. So when you submit an application to SATAC where you list the degrees that you're looking to apply for, it will ask you if you are required to sit the STAT. If yes, add that to your application, and then SATAC will contact you with further details about STAT dates and sittings. There's no pass or fail with this test. You just get a score between 100 and 200, and then we have a certain amount of cut-offs for degrees that we then use to base our decision. The results get automatically supplied to us as well by SATAC, so there's nothing further that you need to do there. Just keep in mind that when you do apply through SATAC, and all of the fees are on their website, there is an application fee and there's also a separate STAT fee. So make sure that you do pay both of those fees, otherwise you will not be awarded a STAT sitting and you won't be eligible to receive an offer even if you are eligible for one. So we'll just look at a couple of sample questions just so that you can get a bit more of an idea of what it's like. So in this example, you're presented with a little cartoon, and then it's asking you to draw some conclusions about the meaning of the cartoon with some multiple choice questions. So that's something that you could be facing in the STAT. You might also be presented with something more mathematical based, like this one here, where you've got a little basic equation to work out, and it's asking you to work out what the value of one of those letters is. So this just gives you a bit of an idea of the sorts of questions that you might be looking at with this test. Another example is you could be presented with a passage of text, and then it asks you questions about it. So more like a reading comprehension type exercise as well. So it's definitely a really common pathway that people do use to get into university. And as I mentioned, it's more just testing your critical thinking and analysis skills. Another pathway that you can use is prior TAFE or VET study. So as we saw from the example that we looked at earlier, that particular degree, which was the Bachelor of Computer Sciences, it will allow you to apply on the basis of a certificate for or higher. It doesn't have to be a related certificate for or qualification. It can be in anything, can be something completely different, but that is a minimum eligibility and entry criteria that you can use. You can actually get guaranteed entry into some degrees, which we'll talk about a little bit in a minute, and you can also then get credit for some of the prior study that you have completed. So what we're going to do is take a look at where you can find out that information. Before we get to that though, I'll just touch on how the credit system works with TAFE. There are some agreements in place where you will actually get specified credit because the curriculum content, there are some similarities there, and we've made an arrangement with TAFE that if you do a specific qualification with them, you get specific credit with us. So as an example, if you do a diploma of geoscience, you'll get a year's worth of credit into a Bachelor of Science with a major in geology. And that's because you will be studying obviously some similar content, and you get credit for that. You don't have to retake courses that are covering that same content, and you move on with the rest of your studies. Another option is unspecified credit. So this is where your TAFE certificate or diploma has nothing really relevant to do with what you're studying, or there's no agreement in place between TAFE and the university. So as just a bit of an example, any certificate for will grant you 6 units of credit into a few of our more general degrees. So, you know, something like the Bachelor of International Studies, and that's about the equivalent of 6 months full-time study. So for a lot of your TAFE courses, depending on the degree that you're looking at getting into, there will be a certain amount of credit that you can reasonably expect to get if you do choose to study at university. So the credit calculator is where you can find out more information about the credit arrangements, what sorts of credit you're going to get, whether you've got guaranteed entry. So we'll see if we can actually have a bit of a look at that. Yeah, cool. So this is it here. When you're on the TAFE credit calculator page, you can choose what qualification you studied. So we'll just use that same example, which was the Diploma of Geoscience. It will then show that there is an agreement with the Bachelor of Science majoring in geology. And then you can see here that there is actually guaranteed entry. So you know that if you apply through SATAC for the Bachelor of Science with a diploma in geoscience, you'll actually be guaranteed a place in that program. And then it stipulates how much credit you'll get. So this is a really useful tool if you know what you're actually studying and have a bit of an idea about what you're thinking of doing. What I might do whilst we're here is just flick back to our degree finder, which I looked at the start of the session, which is this one here, Study at Adelaide. And this is where you can find that prerequisite and entry requirement information. So you can either search by a subject, keyword, career, or you can actually just browse by subject area. So this can be really helpful if you're just interested in having a look at what's available. So if we then click onto computer science and then the Bachelor of Computer Science, you'll see that there's a description about the degree. It will talk about entry requirements. So if we just assume domestic applicant, these are sort of equivalent high school cut-off scores. This mentions that prerequisite. and this is where those alternate entry pathways are. Degree Finder is really useful when you are researching degrees, because you can see things like the degree structure, which drills a little bit more into the types of courses that you would actually be studying with us, which can be really helpful. And if you click onto those links, it will take you to more information about that course or subject, including a description as well. So this can be really helpful when you're just trying to decide what you might be looking at studying. So we'll just go back to our PowerPoint. Cool. When it comes to applying for credit, this is something that happens once you have received and accepted an offer to study with us. So you will apply to your relevant faculty, which is sort of an academic area, and that will depend on what degree you are studying as to who that goes to. And then once it has been approved, they will apply the credit to your transcript and let you know exactly what remaining courses you do need to enrol into in order to fulfill the requirements for your degree. So once you do get to uni, there is a lot of support available when it comes to choosing courses. You're certainly not alone, and particularly if you are coming with credit, you'll find that you get a lot of advice from your faculty about how that all works. There are also dual offers. So this is a different agreement that we have with TAFE, where you actually apply for a packaged TAFE and university pathway. So it's one TAFE SA code where you apply to start with directly through to TAFE. Once you are getting close to the completion of your TAFE qualification, the University of Adelaide will contact you to see if you're still looking to continue your studies with us. And if so, again, you'll be guaranteed entry and that will all be taken care of. Then you will go straight into the associated University of Adelaide degree, apply for credit to your faculty to an agreement that we already know what that's going to look like, and then continue on with your studies. So this is a really great option if you're thinking about potentially studying at university. You want to make sure that you lock down that place and you're interested in a specific combination. So there are a few varying combinations. These are sort of some of the most common ones. Probably the most popular one is the associate degree in electronic engineering with the Bachelor of Engineering. This is a really unique combination where you do 2 years at TAFE and then 2 years at university, which is 4 years in total, the exact same as the Bachelor of Engineering degree on its own. So it's a great pathway for people that might not meet the prerequisites or entry criteria to get into the electrical and electronic engineering straight off the bat. Cool. Tertiary transfer is another really common one. So people who have already completed some study at another university who then want to study with us can apply on the basis of their university grades. So there's lots of reasons why people might do this. They might not meet the entrance criteria for direct entry into one of our degrees. So they might study at a university where the entrance criteria is a little bit lower, start some study with them. Once you've done the equivalent of 6 months full-time, you get what we call a grade point average, or a GPA, and that then becomes the score that we use to assess your application. So you can apply for that particular reason. Alternatively, you might start a degree at another university and realise that it's not quite for you, and then use those grades to transfer into something else. So yeah, it's a really common pathway. You apply through SATAC still like everything else, and provide them with details of your previous study. The SATAC application system is quite intuitive. So if SATAC can actually get those results on your behalf, they won't bother you with having to provide and attach transcripts. If they can't, then they will ask for them as it's necessary. So if you've done study at UniSA or Flinders, you likely won't actually have to apply that in your SATAC application, because SATAC can get those results from those universities. It will let you know as you do it, so that's really helpful and just something to be aware of. If you're coming from another university with some prior study, again, once you receive and accept an offer to study with us, you can then look at applying for credit to see whether any of those courses can be used towards your new degree. The UPP is the University Preparatory Program. It is a foundation program for people that have never been to university or haven't studied for a long time. It does allow entry into certain programs, but in terms of what this is going to look like for next year. It is currently under review, so I don't have a lot of information to share about this at the moment. I just wanted to let you know that it could potentially be an option, but it would be something that you would need to touch base with us a little bit closer to the end of the year to see if we've got any further details. The UPP is something that it just introduces you to the culture and what it's like to be a student, foundational type subjects. So it could be useful if you think that's going to be helpful for you, but it's worth knowing that it does take a year to complete and you don't actually get any credit into your chosen degree after that. So we always try to advise people on the most straightforward and quickest pathway into their degree. So if that was the case for you, you might potentially look at sitting something like the STAT as opposed to spending a full year in a preparatory program that you don't get any credit for as such. If anyone identifies as Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander, I definitely recommend that you get in touch with Wultuyali Aboriginal Education because they can chat through some of the different access schemes that are available, and also, of course, the various support services that once you are a student with us, you can access. So I would definitely recommend getting in contact with them. On the note of student support, starting university is a really daunting thing, particularly for people who aren't coming straight out of high school, might not be in the real swing of study, or potentially have not studied for a really, really long time. It's just worth pointing out that we don't leave you alone. We have lots of students that do come to us from a variety of pathways and not always straight out of high school. In terms of the various support services that we'll provide to assist you, they range from personal to academic. So with personal, we have counselling, disability and elite athlete services. We have a dental clinic and a medical clinic on campus that students can access for free as well. When it comes to academic support, we have a maths learning centre where you can take maths problems, and a writing centre where you can actually take your assignments and they will sit through and work through them with you and make sure that it's structured correctly and referenced correctly and all of that sort of thing. So you still do have a level of academic support once you do get to university as well. We do also have schemes in place where your peers can help mentor you, so peer-assisted study sessions, which means that students that are further advanced in the degree will be mentoring first-year students in a subject that they've already taken. And we also have a careers service as well. So this is all about helping you to find a job after you finish your degree. And they're very helpful with things like writing job applications, going to interviews, when you should be looking for different types of opportunities like volunteering and internships and all of that sort of stuff. So there is a lot of support available as long as you put your hand up and ask for it. Okay, so that is me. What we might do is bring Lawrence out to have a bit of a chat to him, and then we can check to see if anyone has any questions. Hello, Lawrence. So you're patiently waiting in the corner of the room all this time. So to get started, I might just get you to introduce yourself and what you're studying.
Sure. My name's Lawrence Richards. I'm studying an advanced science degree in biochemistry and chemistry, and I'm currently in years 2 and 3. So I'm taking third-year subjects and second-year subjects, but I'm still an undergraduate.
So what is your work study history?
Okay, so I have been a chef for more than 10 years now. So I work at the moment, I currently work for Maggie Beer as a product developer, and I study here at the university full-time. So I juggle both uni and work in the Barossa as well as coming down. So I've got a lot to do.
How do you manage that?
I have to be really organised. I keep a pretty up-to-date electronic diary. The university provides a lot of electronic calendars, which I load to my phone. So things send me notifications, and they're also updated if anything changes. Again, I've got email push to my phone, so all communication from the university and lecturers and stuff like that I get instantly. So yeah, the communication between the university and the students is really good.
And did you start off in this degree or did you change?
So I did an internal transfer into this degree. The degree I'm studying is designed for high achieving students, but I went into a degree in food and nutrition. So I went as a chef with a certificate 4, and having previously studied at another university as well, in sound engineering of all things. So I didn't really know what I wanted to do for a long time. And I chopped and changed a lot and changed my mind, which is all good and well. And I eventually transferred into advanced science because I figured out that that's what I wanted to do. And I still don't know what I'm going to be when I grow up, but I like to just choose what interests me at the time and go with it. So.
Why did you choose the University of Adelaide?
I chose the University of Adelaide because of its reputation globally, for science especially. I thought that it was the right decision. Also because the food and nutrition program looked really good. It encompasses some subjects that involve making cheese, other things like that. So yeah, that was part of the reason I chose the University of Adelaide.
So what age did you start your food and nutrition degree, and what was the reason behind that decision to come to university?
So I started my food and nutrition degree when I was 26. And the reason I decided to come to uni was I got to a point in my career as a chef where I was working full time. I'd had another long week and I decided it's time for a change. So I was in Melbourne at the time. I moved back to Adelaide because my family's here. And I decided that I would either buy a house, buy a business, or study more. And I chose study because I thought I was a bit too young to get myself into debt. And so I thought, we'll push the other 2 goals aside for the moment and I'll go back to study. And so I Googled, as everyone does, and I found some food and nutrition courses, and the one at the University of Adelaide seemed to be the best. So I rustled up all of my documentation from high school, from the short courses that I had done, from my TAFE qualifications, put it all in a folder, sent it off as a late application, so SATAC got an extra $120 off me, and they processed the application and I got an offer and decided I'd go and check it out, and if I didn't like it, that I would leave.
Yeah, cool.
And it all went from there.
That's awesome. Sounds good. What do you like most about studying at uni and studying in your specific degree?
I like studying at uni because it's really challenging, and it stimulates my mind. I don't feel like after sort of 10 years as a chef, or even in the last 5 years, there's always an element to your job that's repetitive work. And it may be challenging at the start, but it wasn't so challenging after a while. And I felt like I was stuck in a rut. Whereas when I'm at university, it's always challenging and it's always different. And I always feel like I'm growing and learning something, which is good. So it keeps me stimulated and I feel like I'm sort of alive again.
What advice would you give someone who's thinking about starting university, I guess particularly if they're not coming straight out of school?
Ooh, I would start with a Google and look around at the degrees that you want to study. Look in detail and talk to SATAC. There's plenty of information available. Talk to the university. And there are many, many pathways to get in, and there are many options of how to get in. And then once you've gotten into a degree, transferring internally for me was really not even a thing. I sent in one application, which was a 1-page document that I pretty much signed and gave to the faculty, and they said, okay, thanks. And then about 3 months later, my degree just had a different name on the same system, and all of my credit was transferred over without again, without a thing, it just happened automatically. So the ability to transfer if you don't think you made the right decision or to do that. So what I try and do is just pick the subjects that I like, and what degree I end up with at the end is, what I end up with, I guess, and at least I'm doing something I like. So.
Yeah. And have you used any of the uni's support services, or have you had support from your course coordinators?
I actually think I've used most of them. I talk a lot with my lecturers. That's very much encouraged here at the university. So I ask them questions when I don't know the answer to questions that they give me. And I've used student care. I use student care in order to apply for a grant that was available for my situation. So it was a grant for science students, and they helped me through that process, and I won the grant as well, which was great. So that was cool. I've done some, I've talked to the scholarships office. They've been great. They helped me choose a scholarship that was right for my situation, and there are plenty available. And they told me that lots of scholarships actually they look to fill, especially some of the ones that are for rural or remote or particular. I think there's quite a few for women in engineering, and other things like that. And the PASS and the Maths Learning Centre and the Writing Centre definitely used. Tech Services, one of my favourite. They have a lot of the programs that are available to students in universities, and I have a couple of friends that are in different degrees, and one of the main differences that I've noticed at the University of Adelaide compared to other universities is the access you get from the technology. The library services are fantastic. We have access to all of the journals that are published online. Some universities don't have access. And it's really difficult to write an assignment if you can't actually get the material. Again, you are able to take programs or under the university license to have on your own personal devices in order to complete your study. Statistics programs, Microsoft Office, I think they even have referencing programs to help you with that. All sorts of things, graphing programs, all of that. And those little differences are really important, I think, especially when you're studying science and you need to get journals because some of them are quite expensive.
Yeah, I can imagine. So I know you said you're not really sure what you want to do when you grow up, but what are your goals at this point for the future once you graduate?
My goals at this point, I have only just recently started working for Maggie Peer, and being a product developer and not being a chef anymore was a big goal of mine. So I'm sort of on the path to achieving some of my goals. But my goals after uni have changed a bit, really. I'm not so much interested in the food scene as much. However, I still love cooking, so that's a hard one to shape. But for work, I think I want a more professional job that's in science and technology. So I really like chemistry, and so I'm sticking with that and seeing where it takes me. And to be honest, the future is hard to predict, as Einstein said.
True. At this point, we might just stop and see if we've got any questions. No. Are there any questions? If you do have a question for either myself or Lawrence, please type it in the little Q&A link. What's this? Oh, we've got a couple of chats. Okay, let's have a look. Actually, applied for Bachelor of Sciences through SATAC. Degree. I don't have that on me at the moment, but I would imagine that a GPA of that score is actually quite a good score, and from memory it is definitely meeting the cutoff for the Bachelor of Health and Medical Sciences. So have you submitted an application through SATAC?
Yes.
Yeah, you've already applied. Yeah, perfect. So yeah, I think that you've got a really great chance of getting entry into that degree based on your score. So as long as SATAC have made the official calculation, which is what you've said there, which is great, I think you're looking in good shape. So good luck. No worries. Offers will be coming out mid-January of next year. So yeah, definitely keep an eye on the email address that you put in your SATAC application to find that out.
It's an impatient wait, SATAC.
It is, yeah. Cool, just see. So whilst we're just waiting to see if there are any last questions, I guess I'll just share a little bit of my own experience as a student, as a university student. So I, like Lawrence, I transferred 3 times because I just couldn't really decide what it was that I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to go to university and that was really important. But I just struggled to kind of find the right fit. I actually studied at all 3 universities in South Australia. I started at UniSA, I then transferred to Flinders, and then I came to the University of Adelaide. And I ended up studying a Bachelor of Arts degree, which is a really flexible degree. And I guess the thing that I really liked about it was the fact that I could really build the degree around the subjects that I was interested in. So again, I really echo what you said there, Lawrence, that picking subjects that you're really interested in is a good way to go. Sometimes people choose degrees for all sorts of reasons, but if you don't really follow what's in your heart and what you're interested in, you might not find that you get the experience that you're looking for. So yeah, I found that really worked for me personally, and I really enjoyed my time at the University of Adelaide and ended up falling in love with economics of all things that I had never studied before, but just took it as an elective because I thought it would be interesting. And yeah, ended up really just running with that subject area because I enjoyed it a lot and felt like it was really opening my mind to the way that the world worked. So that's kind of it from me. If we haven't got any questions, which it doesn't look like there are any more, I guess we'll sign off and thank you for tuning in. We will be putting this webinar on our website as well. But if you do have any further questions, please get in touch with us. So when it comes to different pathway options, the advice we give you might be completely different to the advice we give someone else, depending on the degree that you want to get into, your particular circumstances, if there are prerequisites and all of that sort of stuff. So it is a good idea to get in touch with an advisor and have a chat with someone directly about your situation. So please do feel free to give the university a call or send us through an email at future.students@adelaide.edu.au, and we're certainly more than happy to chat about your personal circumstances and study options. So thank you again. Thank you, Lawrence. That was really valuable. It's always great to actually hear from someone who's currently studying just to get that experience, and we really hope to see you soon at the University of Adelaide. We are signing off.